perspective is connected with perception. So you have perception, which is more to the depth. And maybe there is something like a pure perception. I'm not sure of that. Because I think everything we perceive has a perspective. But then more perspective is coming forward when the person is in between the inner core of perception. There's different, of course, windows of perception we've been talking about. And then in between there is the person. And again, it's interesting to look at the person. What is the person? And how is the person interfering or interacting with our perception? So, the first thing that comes forward in mind when we think about what is the person, it's what we identify with as I. What's important to understand, what we identify with I is different from moment to moment. Sometimes our I is grandiose, and sometimes our I is a friar, a loser. Sometimes we see ourselves as very insecure. Sometimes we see that we are loving, and we identify with all of this as, this is me. I love my children very much, so I am a loving mother. And then it seems that what comes together with the person is the experience, how we experience the person, how we think about the person, what we believe that we should be or what we are, and how we experience ourselves. But not only how we experience ourselves, also how others are experiencing us, how we think that others are experiencing us. And that brings forward immediately a certain perspective we can kind of, perceive in the world. And a lot of perspective, how we perceive in the world, is not so much directly, the perspective is connected with what we experience ourselves, but how we think we are experienced. So the perspective then we're looking into the world is, are we accepted? Are we okay? Do we belong? Are we part of? Or are we rejected? Are we not part of? Are we not okay? It's also interesting to see that according to this, we adjust the person. We try to adjust who we are in a way that we think we will be acceptable. It's interesting to look when this conflict is going on. Are we okay or are we not okay? That the perspective we're looking from is a perspective of separation. Separation took place already. We are not part of. If you have to accept me, that means there is already a separation. There is not a togetherness. There is not a unity. So we look from the perspective of separation. Also, if I put a question forward, if you will accept me, then I look from the perspective of not being accepted. What do I need to do that you will see me, that you will accept me, that I will be okay? So in the death, there is this belief, which is the perspective we look into the world with, that we are not okay. So there is non-union and we are not okay.
See that? When I'm asking someone, when I'm coming with, will they accept me? I understand that already, if I have to ask that, then already there's a separation. And then if I'm checking to see, will you accept me for how I am, for how I'm behaving and so forth, then already I'm coming, you're saying I'm already coming from the perspective that I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Because if I was completely, quote unquote, okay, there would not even be the need to ask this, or to put this, or to even come with this, I don't even have to ask it, to come with this even kind of perspective in my mind.
Yeah, you don't need to look at it
To see if I'm...
to see if you're okay or not. There's no question about it. You just are what you are. So when we look more deeply into it, so what we could do is change perspective. And we change our perspective according to beliefs. But even stronger, we change our perspective according to our moods, what's going on. If we feel down, we feel depressed. So part of depression is that we really feel more isolated and lonely, not connected with the world around ourselves. And then we look around and our perspective is very much colored by our depression. And we see people doing all kind of things and they're laughing together and they're watching each other and everything what they do seems to be senseless. It has no sense. There is no connection at all. So we feel so disconnected that from our perception there is no connection between people either. It makes no sense anymore. It's senseless. When we feel in love, and especially when the person we feel in love with is also in love with us, and we feel affirmed in our being in love, then our perspective is totally different. Our perspective is, a perspective of belonging, of being totally okay. And we look around and everybody is beautiful and everybody is nice and everybody is friendly, and who is not friendly, this just falls off. We don't even see it. It's a poor sucker.
For most people, it's a movement between the two.
For most people, it's a movement between two extremes, and one extreme is more extreme as being in love, is being a little bit grandiose. I'm the best, fuck the rest kind of movement, and an absolute loser. But there is this kind of movement in between that these two polarities. If you look in this layer we're talking about right now, either you're success, but when we are success we feel sometimes so full of light and so blinded by the light and so full of power and acceptance that we're not really connected. What's important to understand also, when we feel a loser and we feel so insecure and not really belonging and absolutely, you want to kind of disappear. That's how painful it is. Again, this is all a perspective of separation. When we're in this kind of polarity, do we really see another? Or do we only see ourselves? If we talk about the power of perspective, is basically the way we perceive the world becomes the reality. So do we really perceive the world? Or do we perceive our reality in the world? If you feel very insecure and a loser, people will maybe react to it as well. But the way we are looking at people is as being superior. And people will react on this.
What? When you feel like a loser, you are looking from superior.
No, you're looking at other people as though
Well,
they're
it's superior.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. You have the power to reject me, to say that I'm a loser, so there's a fearful, dreadful situation between the two of us, and I give you the authority either to reject me or to accept me. And for sure you will reject me, because I'm rejecting myself.
And in the rejecting myself, you are also being incredibly superior to yourself. When you feel like a loser, who is making that judgment?
So this is all basically interaction with the person which is inside us. And it's like this gives us a perspective that we are totally blinded by the needs, the longings, the emotions, the thoughts, the beliefs of the person which is built up in us.
By all those things, thoughts and emotions of the person that's built up in ourselves, is that what you're saying?
So basically we only see ourselves. And I can give a million examples of this. Of talks we have together, you know, that a person is a little bit fearful to go to the dentist, so we get that he's fearful to go to the dentist, and we tell our dentist story. It's all about ourselves.
You mean as a therapist or a teacher or something?
As a
friend.
neighbor, as a
Oh,
friend.
I see.
And to tell our dentist story is kind of, you know, making it worse. It's about us. It's all about us in communication, in perception. It's all about us. About a certain aspect of us. Based on what I try to bring forward, based on separation. Based on incredible, deep belief that we are separate. That we don't belong. So what would the world look like from the perspective of unity?
Unconditional.
More unconditional, different. So, you know, we all believe, as an example, that we've got a separate soul. So what if you would look from the perspective that there is not something like a separate soul? That there is one soul. We look at each other as if we are separate universes. What if we would look at each other from the perspective that there is one universe and we are part of the expression of that universe? We look at each other from a perspective that there is a separation in creation. But what if we look at the world and at each other in a way that we see that we are all part of the same creation?
So why did the creation make it in a way that we feel the separation so strong? Why did the creation, the creator, make it that way? If we have to work on feeling this unity, and because in the day-to-day we all do feel this separation, so how come from the original it wasn't created that way? Do you understand my question?
Yeah. Yeah. How come that we separated from creation, that we separated from the Creator? The difficulty is if you believe in God and you say that God created the universe and God created us like this, which is probably true or not true, it doesn't matter. And so the separation we are in is kind of caused by creation, by God Himself. Then we have absolutely no say in it. It is what it is. There is not a different perspective possible. We give away, basically, automatically, the authority to the Creator. He created us so we cannot help ourselves. This is how we are.
So what you're
No, we
saying-
can try to work on it. We could try to change our perspective, but it's
Why is it this way that we need to actually work on it to realize it? How come it's not?
a given, or maybe it is a given.
I think it's absolutely a given.
So how come humanity doesn't feel this way?
We feel part of the time this way. When we sleep, we feel this way. When we really relax, we feel this way. There is parts in your life that you feel this way. There is moments that you feel this way. How come that we have more belief in the moment of separation as in the moment of unity?
So it's needed for something. It's needed probably to function in a certain way. Maybe it's needed, or elsewhere it's
To what
it's
service?
effect, you know, not to feel this way unless you need it to function in a certain way.
So, if it is needed, for what would it be needed?
For free will, maybe. For free will to take an action in your own way.
When you look at God and creation, you can only really look at it in the sense of it's happening now. The source of us is in a perpetual creation.
What's perpetual?
Continuous.
It's not something that happened historically, it's not something that's happening, it's ongoing music. And every perspective is a note of the music. Part of this, what's happening now, is the development of mind. And mind gives structure into the whole kind of sea of impressions of being here. So it says, for example, it's giving structure even of itself, reflectively, that I'm looking at you. Even though all the other impressions are there, including the corner of the room over there. This is a perspective. It's an aspect of consciousness. But mind also, because it's in development, still is moving by the either or. Either or, either or. So immediately what we have coming forward now is perspective bad, pure absolute unity good. Or it's this, or it's that.
Mhm.
So this is our mind. Because the unity, we have no form anymore. We would be crazy people. I would also be now seeing what's happening outside the window over there, and I wouldn't be able to focus. I wouldn't be able to take form. Because it's either or. So we get stuck in the middle in a kind of freeze of creation, which is happening actually very rapidly in a kind of perpetual unfolding. You know? So a question. Perspective on what? Whose perspective? Can there be any perspective at all without one? Take a tree. You can look at it from here, from here, from here, from here, at any point in time, at any point in space. You can look at it from up, you can look at it from down, you can look at one grain of it, you can look at the whole picture. What is the one thing that makes all of those billion perspectives possible? If it wasn't there, there would be no perspectives at all.
It, referring to consciousness?
The tree.
Oh, the tree. Okay, there's also the person, there's also the that which is gazing upon the tree.
The consciousness also, if it wasn't there, there would be no perspective possible.
But you can still be physically here, like a tree or whatever, and not being divided, and not thinking.
The same thing
like
again.
yourself
Division.
as a divided person.
How could you ever have division without a whole at the same moment? What divides? So you can take a ball and you can say, this is India, this is Israel, this is France, this is Germany. You can make divisions on the ball, but the ball is already always one whole.
Yes, but most of it, the people are not aware of it constantly or live it constantly. So that's again the
They
question.
don't allow themselves to totally and absolutely, out of this belief, they don't allow themselves to totally own their perspective. For example, let's say you have something which is absolutely and totally true to you. This is the truth. And I say, but from another perspective, what did I do to you? On the level of the mind.
Shaking.
What?
Shake.
Yeah.
Maybe enlarge it.
So the moment you have, like, from another perspective, many perspectives, what happens to the feeling? So you can be depressed, but you can also be happy. You can be mean, but you can also be generous. This freedom of perspective, with having total permission to go with any one perspective, sets it free. It's just one perspective. You can go all the way. You can go all the way into the one. The problem is we go halfway.
What do you mean all the way to the one?
If you're angry, for example,
Okay. All the way.
so you go with it all the way, the perspective of anger, but what allows you to go all the way into this perspective of anger, the experience of anger, the feeling of anger, the beauty of anger, is the belief, what stops you doing that is the belief that you get stuck there. It's going to be an absolute.
So it's not what allows you, it's what stops you from going all the way, is the belief that that will be now my truth.
But it is absolute. And it is absolute at the core, if you go all the way. But we go half the way, and then we avoid, and then we entangle like this, and like this, and like this, and like this. And this puts us kind of to sleep. It kind of puts the brakes on the creative rhythm, the freedom of the rhythm. It kind of holds us back from moving into harmony. Which is totally okay as well, it's also a perspective. But the moment you say it's totally okay, it begins to move.
So when we look, again, at your question, which is a very good question, basically, how come?
Creation.
How come that there is a division between us and the whole? Where is this coming from? Are we created like this? Why? So what Georgi brought forward, it's partly because of the mind. The way we think, it organizes things in you and me, outside and inside, good and bad. It's the mind which helps us to come to understanding of things. But that's not the cause, because the mind is basically a tool. But the mind became, in a way, our truth, our king, what we think is truth. And what a lot of people are thinking is for surely is true.
For sure.
For surely is true.
For sure.
Also what Georgi brought forward is that, you know, if we look at creation, creation is an ongoing process. It doesn't stop long ago. It's still happening. Every moment is a new creation, in a way. What's happening is that we freeze in a certain perspective. It's not that we kind of are able very easily to move from one perspective to another perspective. And to see that each perspective is just a perspective, it's relative, it's not absolute. But we freeze in a certain perspective, and we freeze in a certain perspective often because it's uncomfortable.
Maybe in order to learn this way.
It's in order to learn where we are not able to flow freely.
And if you flow freely, you will get the same lesson, like freezing?
No, we all have different lessons. You know, you freeze maybe when somebody is rejecting you, and somebody else is freezing when a plate falls on the ground, and another person is freezing when somebody is talking about Allah, or whatever. We all have our freezes. I'm just giving examples. Or another person is frozen in a situation that he has a feeling that he's forsaken all the time. So we all have our freezes. They look like each other, they're not so much different. We can recognize them in each other, but we freeze. We freeze in a certain feeling, experience, which is uncomfortable. And we try to avoid it because it's so horrible to be frozen. So we kind of, you know, make a circle out of it, and we find ourselves back in this frozen belief, this frozen structure. There are certain beliefs we hold on to.
Why does that happen?
Exactly the same thing. We hold on to it because if we let it go, this belief, some emotion, some feeling, some experience will come forward which is uncomfortable. Some fear will come forward.
So why is it created this way? It's an innocent function.
So, when you look into it, this form which is coming forward is again connected with the person we think we are.
The form of separation is coming forward.
No, if we let go of a belief and fear is coming forward, this fear is connected about the person. It's always about the person. It's about losing the person, that the person is not a person anymore. So we have a build-up of a person which enables us to communicate, enables us to understand things, enables us to give form. But at the same time, we are so addicted to this person, the person becomes a true. It's not a tool anymore. It's like the mind. So your question is, why is it like this? Why do we get stuck? That's a translation. How come that we freeze in something?
Why do we suffer?
Why do we suffer? Why are we have a feeling, an idea, collectively, that we're separated? I don't know. I can only answer, I don't know.
Maybe it's just to experience this point of view. Or
You-
learn it, or
The problem is, it is how it is right now. To give a reason for it,
But if it is like it is right now, then you keep on floating this between perception and you don't have perception because you keep on floating between events, between the now, what's going on. So you don't have enough, maybe it's not a good word, time. You don't have enough time to capture this, to understand it, to experience it, it doesn't exist. All these whatever situation.
And the problem is if you get stuck, and often stuck is connected with discomfort, with trauma, whatever you call it. When you get stuck, you don't experience. It's
experience misery. Why not?
Yeah, misery.
Experience misery.
Exactly, this is what you experience, but it's a non-experience because it's the same all the time. There is no flow in it. It comes back to the same. It comes back to the same. It doesn't build. It isn't deepening. It's not refining. This is basically, and especially depression, which is behind that, is really a non-experience. It's not about experiencing either.
But how do you know what depression is if you don't really experience it?
Then you know what depression is. So you experienced it. So you experienced depression. You know now what the depression is.
Well, if you're clever, 1 minute is enough, but if you're not so clever, you need more time.
I'm not sure if it's connected with being clever. It's connected with an inner freedom. It's connected with freedom.
What, to realize that's depression? Let's go.
No, the freedom to allow yourself not to hook into depression. The freedom to allow yourself to experience whatever there is to experience in the moment. So the question is, what perspective do we need to gain this freedom? Not to hook into things.
To just understand that there's and.
There is
that's
suffering,
it.
there is pain, there is and joy, and there is and pain. It's also that there's discomfort, and there is bliss. Everything is there. So what perspective do we need?
To experience the freedom.
Yeah,
Of perspective.
of perspective.
What is the perspective we need in order to experience freedom of perspective?
Of perspective.
Did I get that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a way to say it. So what do we need? So the perspective that we see that what we experience is just an experience. It's not defining us. It's not what we are.
Also the freedom to find a place, for example in depression, there is also at the same time, like Libby says, the and, there's also a place where there is a sense of care. There's also a place, maybe it's hard to do, you can just touch it, but there's also, here's the depression, there's also a secret happiness. Even if the depression is there for a learning, there's a happiness of learning about depression. And just by moving there and giving that space as well, and I'm depressed, and secretly I'm enjoying this. Just that is already opening the freedom of perspective.
But as most people do experience, maybe don't put it into, otherwise they won't be stuck so long there. No?
Stuck there, or stuck here, or stuck in a body, or stuck in a lifetime, or stuck in a family, or stuck in we're never actually stuck. The fear of being stuck is one of the reasons that we go halfway. We think that if we really surrender to our incredibly boring job, and really open up in the here and now in this job, we'll be stuck there forever. So we resist it. We close down our perception completely when we go, and then only when we leave work do we open up our perception again. We let ourselves see and be and breathe. This fear of getting stuck is a kind of birth trauma. It's like, whoa, hold on the brakes. I don't really want to be here. And that's kind of a loser's game because we are here anyway. You are at work anyway in a boring job. It's perspective, the boring aspect of it. The fear of getting hooked is perspective. The freedom is, I have a fear of getting hooked, but also I have the total freedom in this job to actually do whatever I want. It will have a cost, but I'm free. I'm still free. I'm free to look where I want, I'm free to express what I want. I'm free to breathe. I'm free to enjoy the body. Just the same as before I came into the job. It's all perspectives not being allowed.
Not being what?
Not being allowed.
So what if we take up the perspective that we are not our experience? That we're able to experience, we are not to experience. Where does it move us? Where are we moving into? Ourselves inside.
Someplace back.
Yeah, someplace back, deeper inside ourselves. And when you just imagine this, that you're just moving from the perspective, whatever I think is not what I am, whatever I feel is not what I am, whatever I experience is not what I am. This is what I think, this is what I experience, this is what gets formed through me. It's not defining me, it's not what I am. So, where does that bring us inside?
Freedom? Some kind of defined
I still
me too, a lot of resistance to
So
it.
it's interesting to look, isn't it? Because it's all coming from there. It's really, really interesting to go there. It's not a dead end.
Because the first thing, I know it's superficial, but the first thing comes that anyhow I know I'm not there. Anyhow, it's a position in life, you know. I know that anyhow, you know.
So who are you?
I'm not captured in that, you know. Almost everything that happened to me, I know that I'm in that. Everything that, almost everything except that things that I forget that I lose myself there, but almost everything is not. I'm sure it's not me.
Yes, but it's still.
So
like
I cannot go more deep to where you are stuck from. I'm stuck there, and there is an anger there.
What there?
So
What is there?
also
there?
the anger.
Anger.
Also the anger step behind it.
What?
Also the anger step.
It's just an emotion.
What is it?
Also the anger.
Step back.
All of it. Just turn your back on the whole lot. Inwardly.
Anger is just an emotion.
Any feeling. Even subtle.
Not so subtle.
Because the way you say it, it's like, it's still kind of, in a way when you push things away, you're holding on to them.
That's what
I'm not
saying.
this, but somewhere out there in the crowd of this, and this, there's this one which I maybe I will let myself be.
No, this
And then you say there's the anger, which is this movement. So we're already coming back now. We're coming back to that which is always there anyway. It gives it the strength to reject any experience. But we're not talking about the rejection and not the strength and not about the experience. We're talking about that, which is really asking the question, if anyway I'm not any of this, then who am I? It's worthwhile checking, because that seems to be your continuum.
It's really I feel the anger on the chest when I cannot let it go. The anger and go to the softness.
No anger, no softness, just not that. But not like this, not that. It's behind that as well.
Yeah, but
There's anger happening, but you're not the anger.
What
Not
is
happening.
what is that? What is aware of the anger? Because you talk about anger, so something is conscious aware of the anger. It's not the anger, but something makes you aware, conscious, that there is an anger.
Yes, but why is it such a hard work?
Why?
Well,
That's the depression.
That's why.
Use the anger to go back. Let it push you back.
It doesn't matter, but why, again, is giving away, giving a cause, giving away authority. It is what it is. You know, when you're in your house with your mother and a bomb is falling, you don't ask why is this bomb falling. Exactly. You know, you don't ask why. That's not a question which is in its place. Why is kind of saying because he did this and now they are throwing a bomb on my house. It doesn't help. It makes no difference. It is what it is. The why question is coming forward because you believe in the anger. The anger is screaming why. And if you get the right answer, then maybe you can let the anger go. But you gave 1,000,000 answers to your anger already.
Not the right one.
Maybe there isn't the right answer. Maybe the anger just needs to be there. It's just the feeling which is there. It's not who you are, it's not defining you.
It's not even your anger.
It's not even your anger, maybe.
It's not yours. It's just anger.
It's just anger. If an animal gets kicked and it really hurts, an animal gets very angry because it needs to survive. The physical body of the animal is getting angry. Is the animal, is the dog anger? Or is the body of the dog producing anger to be able to survive? After a few minutes, what you see in a dog is that the dog shakes himself a little bit and moves on and leaves the anger behind. In humans, we have a difficulty to shake it off. It seems that we get more stuck in a certain emotion more easily, for whatever reason. It's not important the reason, but it's more difficult to move beyond it, to let it just move as it wants to move. You understand? So, again, what is allowing you to perceive the anger? So if that's you, so try to look at yourself. What's that? What's that you which is able to perceive the anger? Is that your person? No, so it's some other you.
Something more immediate to perceive it, the way like I can talk to you about it, say I'm angry, or something which is more remote, to perceive it in a different way.
Yeah. So that's interesting. There's something more you are not.
What?
You said there's something more you're not.
Remote.
What? More?
Remote. Far away.
More remote.
Remote.
So look for the remote.
Be the remote. Windy?
Yes.
That's good. Wind is good.
Okay, you want to give the morning meditation?
I do want to just, maybe you won't continue to address it now, but when you said that we are not our experiences, we're not our thoughts. I asked you in Italy about non-duality. We were sitting at a gas station or something. And I said, what is non-duality, since they didn't know what the conference is. And, and you said something, and then it got clear, and you said, if I remember correctly, that there's no separation between the experience and myself. That it's not that I am looking at something and we are separate, but that what I experience, there's no separation between what I experience and the experiencer. Did I understand that correctly?
There is no separation.
Between,
Full stop.
okay, but what I'm hearing here,
Except for the person that you took it out.
The person is also happening within the whole.
so I'm
Like
experiencing,
anger is happening within the whole, and next moment it's pleasure, and next moment it's happiness, and next moment we have a really strong idea. It's all part of the whole.
right, okay, it's part of the whole, that's conceivable, it's part of the whole, but if, okay, so here's an experience that I'm having, there's an experience of anger, an experience of loneliness in my particular case right now, something like this, and then there is that, or who, doesn't matter, who is experiencing this loneliness, okay, and that is not who I am, okay, there is something beyond that, all right. So that sounds like a separation. There is that to whom which loneliness is now happening. Or there is that who is not the loneliness is something else. So there's the experience of loneliness, and that there's something else. And that thing that's
In
behind.
the second way, you're still talking in terms of separation.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
There is that
Yeah.
continuum, never changing, never feeling, never thinking, but totally here.
Mhm.
That, which is there also in every single moment of loneliness, at the same time that it is there, and all the many, many, many layers of form
Mhm.
emanating out of itself in any moment, in any perspective, in any space. This is the kind of non-separation, meaning there is no rejection necessary.
Yeah, I understand.
Even in one particle of loneliness, by moving totally into it, you'll get a universe of thatness as well. The way is always through what is here. And what is here is changing so rapidly that the moment you totally allow it and move into whatever is here, even if it's a feeling of rejection, it's already becoming something else. It's moving, it's fluid. But there is a continuum too.
There's a continuum too.
To that, which is in its purity beyond, before, behind, within, remotely beyond all perception, but it's also in every single particle of dust. It's in the dirt in the fingernails, it's in every, it's beyond time and space. It's there also. This is the non-separation, because
The there that's you just said in the particle, into this. The there that is there all the time is both that to whom which everything is, so to speak, occurring, and action, and also that which is not separate from everything that is constantly occurring. Even that is all that.
It's before the most pure and refined perspective of the individual I.
Say that again.
It's prior and before even the most pure, refined perspective of the individual I. Of the individual.
Even one more time, if you don't mind.
That is there before, irrespective of, during and after, always here, the birth or the emergence or the rhythm of the individual I. The I. This is the first perspective, looking out from here. It's before. It allows the perspective. It's the tree. Only it's not a tree. But the same principle, out of that one, all the perspectives emerge. in harmony.
which includes the perspective of that to whom things that are happening to, and that to whom actually it is all one with. Even that includes
It
that.
includes that, but it's also that to which nothing whatsoever is ever happening.
Yeah. Okay.
Both.
I got it. Okay. I can't write that. I got it.
And it's not far away, it's not surreal,
No,
it's not
no.
remote, it's not kind of funky dunky, it's absolutely and totally known to us, also from birth and before. We just never really bothered to go into allowing that.
Well, let's start with connecting with the ID. And then I'd like you to connect with the point in between the feet, the earth point. So we connected with 2 points, and then I'd like you to connect with the space between the 2 points. The space inside between these 2 points and the space outside between these 2 points. So I don't only mean the space between up and down, or down and up, but also the space horizontal. Just,
Satchel.
yeah, just connect with the space. And then I'd like you just to kind of, to be conscious, aware of the space, and see if in this space any experience, feeling, or whatever is coming up. In the moment that an experience is coming up, maybe what you will notice that there is a tendency to hook into it. To kind of, not totally let it free. It's a little bit uncomfortable to totally let it just come up and disappear again. We need to do something with it. And become aware what part of you wants to do something with it, with this experience. And become aware of what is perceiving this, what is aware of this, what is noticing this, is conscious of this. And try to kind of move back to that place, to look at that